exercises are really important. Water is also really important. Really, really important. Stay hydrated, my friends. Stay hydrated. Good afternoon, good day. My name is David Diokenda. Welcome to our YouTube channel. And it's a channel that I talk about stuff that I know. I know a lot about fine arts. I know a lot about martial arts, like jiu-jitsu and even wrestling, if you want to consider wrestling a martial art, archery, minimalism, stoicism, and a bunch of other things. So sadly, I haven't been training as much jiu-jitsu as I wanted to, especially during these times. And I also have a really bad ear infection and taking antibiotics and steroids for it and whatnot. So I've been kind of like not training as much and thinking a lot more. And I was thinking about, okay, like if I were to restart my jiu-jitsu journey, I'm currently a black belt. If I were to speak to my white belt self, what advice would I give him? So I kind of broke down a handful of bits of advice that I would give myself if I were to start jiu-jitsu all over again as a white belt. So first thing I would tell myself as a white belt is position before submission. And a lot of well-known practitioners say this. I agree with it 100%. Position before submission. What does that mean? The way I interpret it as imagine jiu-jitsu is like a cake, all right? And the submission is like the frosting and cherry on top, right? That's a submission, but the position is like everything else in the cake that makes the cake a cake. And I think, in my opinion, the positions are way more important than the submission itself. The submission is great, but I think a lot of practitioners, especially myself when I first started, I was focused way more on like getting a flying triangle and getting the a particular guillotine. Not knowing that I was neglecting a whole lot of different positions to even get there to make my life a lot more easier. If you focus more on the positions and getting to the optimum position for that particular submission, you're gonna see your an increase in your submissions, I think, in my opinion. That's what I do now. I focus way more. My game is like 90% positions and getting to the best position possible. And then, on the way there, on that route, that journey to that position or the optimum position, if a submission lends itself to you, then, capitalize on it. But focus more on positions. So position before submission. Advice number 2 that I would give, the white belt version of myself is drill more than I spar. And I'm not saying sparring is not important. Sparring is, of course, important. It's super important. However, I feel, in my opinion, as a white belt, I neglected drilling so much. I would drill for maybe like 10, 15 minutes and like spar for 45. I think drilling and sparring are equally as important. But if as a white belt, like if I went back in time and told myself, if I had an hour, I'll spend that hour or that 45 minutes of that hour drilling and 15 minutes of hard, non-stop sparring. I feel like it's sort of reversed, where there's way more sparring than there is drilling. I feel like as a white belt, especially, for me as a white belt, I think drilling way more would have been more beneficial than sparring. And usually, not all the time, but usually when you're drilling, there's less probability of you getting injured. If you don't get injured, you're there more often. You're there more often, you learn more. So drill more than you spar. Again, sparring is important, but as a white belt, I think drilling is way more important. Third thing, or the third piece of advice I would give myself as a white belt is focus more on learning and less on winning. I kind of had a flashback not too long ago when I was sparring with a friend who's a blue belt. and he told me, I'm gonna beat you, or I'm gonna win against you, or something like that, something of that nature. And in my mind, I immediately judged him, like, that's silly, like, you're not gonna beat me. But I feel like that was a, poor, I guess you can say, split decision judgment on him. I was the same way. I focused way more on beating the guy that I was in front of, than using it as an opportunity to learn. And on the same sort of breath, also view everyone you're training with as a training partner, not a competitor or competition to get to your desired like belt level or skill level. I don't say use everyone, but view the person in front of you, the person that you shake and bump fists with, as a partner, not a competitor. They're there to help you, like tools. They're there to get you to your goal. So when you're focused more on winning, when you focus more on winning, you're willing to do certain stuff that might be a little bit cheap, that might be a little bit, I guess you can say, mean of sorts. And then you're seen as the guy that's always, shoving fists into necks, or, fish hooking people, or, you don't want to be seen as that guy, and no one wants to train with you. But no one wants to train with you, then like, it's hard to find good training partners, and you're not going to get to your goal. So focus more on learning and less on winning. Of course, if your context matters, this is more in the context of like a person that's a hobbyist, going once in a while, kind of getting their feet wet. Of course, if you're a high level competitor, do you, like that's on you. I'm not gonna advise you guys, but when I was a white belt, I wasn't really focused on competing, even though I did compete. I feel like I could have gotten way more out of my sparring sessions if I mentally had it put myself in a zone of I am learning right now, not how do I beat the guy that's in front of me. And the fourth piece of advice I would give myself as a white belt is don't brag. Don't brag. I mean, is not bragging or not bragging gonna help or hinder your jiu-jitsu? I don't think so, but I think I bragged way too much as a white belt. If I tapped a higher white belt or a blue belt, I would like tell everybody in the academy. And I wasn't really self-aware at that time. But yeah, that's just a bad taste, in my opinion. Of course, everyone brags. Sometimes they're busting someone's chops, like, there's a bit of like a little competition, or a little bit of like a rivalry against you and somebody else. It's friendly. That's different. That's just, busting each other's chops. It's just sort of just making fun of each other. But I used to brag way too much. I used to talk about, I tapped that big guy and this big guy. And I'll be honest, if I was a white belt now, with the social media that we have now, I'd probably be one of those guys bragging online and saying I tapped this purple belt or blue belt or whatever. Honestly, I was sort of thinking like, did bragging about who I tapped make me any better? No, it didn't. It didn't do anything. If anything, it just made me look kind of like a bit immature, which I was. And also, you want to create, like a better word, relationships with your training partners where like, they can try something on you and fail miserably, and you capitalize, and then you go brag about it to other people. It's like no one wants to train with you, if you constantly do that. And also the fact that a lot of the times these sort of blue belts or purple belts or brown belts that I supposedly tapped legitimately weren't legit, because they're going easy on me. They noticed I was like significantly smaller than them. Maybe they had an injury, and a lot of times, 9 times out of 10, it was one of those things. So again, does bragging or not bragging directly or indirectly affect my jiu-jitsu? I don't know, but I can definitely say it didn't help. And my advice to myself would be like, okay, like what could you do to make yourself better in jiu-jitsu? And bragging, in my opinion, doesn't really help you. Again, this is based on your particular academy. Some academies are like completely okay with it. It's, it's not disrespectful in any way. in other academies it is disrespectful. But I would say bragging really didn't help me, so I think I would have not have bragged as much as a white belt. So that's pretty much my video for today. Again, my channel is pretty much about things that I know. I know jiu-jitsu, I know wrestling, I know minimalism, I know fine arts, I know calligraphy, archery. So my page is a little bit about everything that I know. It's mostly focused on my art, but and everything that sort of revolves around my artwork and my art career. And jiu-jitsu is definitely one of them. If you liked the video, please click that like, thumbs up button. If you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe. If you train jiu-jitsu, what advice would you tell your, younger white belt self? And also, if you're a white belt, did I miss anything, or was any of it helpful or not helpful? I don't really know. I'm kind of going based off the feedback that I get. The previous jiu-jitsu video, my jiu-jitsu journey, had a pretty good response, which I'm happy about. But I feel like I wanted to focus way more on like white belt advice and issues, because I look online on forums and stuff like that, and it's predominantly a lot of like new beginners asking questions. So hopefully, if you're a white belt or any belt level, I hope this helped you. Maybe not. Anyway, so if you want to see more of my artwork, just go to davidokeno.com, and that's pretty much it. So hopefully everyone's doing well. Take care and be safe. Bye-bye.
We seemed to come together because of a battle that each of us was fighting within himself.